Hey, Sarge. Welcome to Ride Along Radio, where the ride tells a story and there is no badge required.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Ride Along Radio. I am one of your hosts, Officer Rodriguez, and we have Sergeant Diaz here today.
Thank you. Welcome, welcome.
We have two very special guests. So we have Leonardi and Emma. These are members of our crisis intervention unit. So today we're kind of going to explore how officers in Cleveland are stepping up, not with force, but with compassion, and it's all about our crisis intervention team. We call it CIT, kind of as you hear it. It's just a little bit easier to kind of put that out there. So if that's what you hear us say, that's what it is. So what this is, it's pretty much transforming policing and kind of building that public trust with one call at a time. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We will start here with Leonardi. Can you kind of tell us about yourself, how long you've been on the job?
I've been on with Cleveland Police for about 10 years now, just over 10 years. And I've been with the crisis intervention team since its inception. And we started at the end of 2020, and we hit the road January 1st, 2021. I'm the only remaining member from the original team. Yeah.
Lone soldier.
Absolutely, yeah. I love the job. I love doing it. We've definitely built it up over the years, and I'm excited to talk about it today.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah.
Emma, can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a licensed counselor. Oh, I'm sorry, it's so weird to hear
yourself?
in this mic. I'm a licensed counselor. I have a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling, and I came into the program in February of 21, so a few months in. And I am Detective Leonardi's partner, and we work responding to crisis calls.
Nice.
So you guys been working together for 4 years now? Four-ish?
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's usually, on the job in police, they say, who you work with makes a big difference in terms of your day, how it goes, and that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool to have someone consistent. And obviously, Leonardi, you've been there since the inception of the program, so that's great.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Just like with police officers in the car, we get to know each other and what have you. And when Emma and I became partners, we were just getting down to the basics, where you're from, where do you live, and everything like that. And we discovered that we are actually neighbors. We live on the same street.
Oh, no way.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Yeah.
It is pretty
So
cool.
you're neighbors and you're partners.
Yes,
yeah.
we are.
So are you guys at that annoying point yet, where you kind of,
No, I wouldn't say
share
that.
snacks
not at all.
and
Nope, not at all.
finish each other's questions, statements, like
Oh,
twins?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, we do that for sure. For sure.
That's
for sure.
awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's
So
cool.
I just have, Emma, for you, not being in police work, kind of how does that feel and look for you? Is it just like a normal everyday thing?
It took some time to get used to learning police culture, because that was something that was pretty foreign to me coming in. I've always been in the crisis realm, so coming out of grad school, I did like some hospital emergency room stuff, so I had a little exposure there, but coming in, they kind of just threw us to the wolves. Like there was no set training process or like this is what this program is going to look like and what it's supposed to be. So I was lucky to have Leonardi who could kind of walk me through all that.
Wow. Okay. That's huge.
So that's kind of interesting, because I think, and we'll get into this a little bit further in the program, but I think that's sort of the baseline to why we have clinicians working with law enforcement, because there always seems to be a disconnect when we deal with folks that have these crises, that are in crisis. So I think it's almost like it helped you mesh with the law enforcement to better maybe kind of be like a liaison, if you will, to the community that you're responding with. Is that?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. This is a unique program in that like you get the best of both worlds, and it offers me a door into situations that mental health normally wouldn't have a place, because there are situations that's just unsafe for me to be there, unsafe for mental health to be there without the other side. So it really allows us to bring that piece into these crisis situations and use both our skill sets to resolve it.
Yeah, to have that in the moment, the mental health piece in the moment in a lot of these crisis situations, no matter the severity or what have you of the person, it's proven to be extremely successful for us.
For sure. Yeah, that's great. That's good to see how you get a lot of the folks wondering how does this program help the community. For sure. From one side, there's like clinicians should be there. This is law enforcement. And then the opposite is law enforcement shouldn't be handling folks that are in crisis. So I've heard both, and I've heard people say it doesn't work, but you guys are proof that it does work. Is that?
Yeah. I think knowing each other's role is super important. We have to be really careful not to blur those boundaries, but it's been hugely successful because we can balance that.
Yeah, Sarge, you asked Emma about like in the beginning, and you mentioned it too, Emma. We had to learn each other's jobs essentially, and when you get into a car with another Cleveland policeman or woman, we know our jobs. We were trained the same way and everything like that. But I didn't know what Emma's capabilities were and her education and a lot of different things. So I had to learn a lot of that stuff, and then also she had to learn what a police officer actually does and what our limitations are and everything like that.
So how long did it take you guys to get comfortable with working with one another like that? Did it take some time, or was it, once you guys kind of hashed it out, you're like, okay, wow, this works really well. I know you're laughing.
We knew each other before we were partners because I came into the unit and had a different partner. So that definitely helped, but I think relatively quickly. I think the hardest part was like learning some personality quirks and how to best support each other.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like your normal partner stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you helped him a little bit more, or did he help you?
Oh, both
With
ways,
the
definitely. Yeah.
Definitely.
What kind of pulled you, Leonardi, into the program? What made you interested in kind of joining this from the beginning? Because you're still here, so you clearly have some sort of passion for it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple other officers that were senior to me that I respected a lot and still do actually, and they decided to volunteer for it, and I respected them enough to know that they were making the right decision to do it. But also, I have a personal, passion for it too. Just given, some personal connections and what have you to mental health and everything like that. So yeah, that's kind of what drove me to be here and still be here too.
And I think that makes most of it, like having that connection. Because if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to be passionate with the people that you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. So we've done some other programs. We did like the Take Me Home and the Culture City, where it talks about folks that have autism and stuff like that. So this is obviously a different program. However, it's important for someone that may be watching this to understand why it's effective, and you have to have not necessarily the most smartest person or the most qualified person, but the person that fits the best, in these positions. So I think that's key, in terms of law enforcement. So you have to have probably a certain personality and a certain interest in that stuff. So I think it's great to see, you've been there so long and then be able to maintain it and grow the program and make it effective. I think that's huge. So tell us a little bit about the training. What does that look like to be a crisis intervention trained officer?
Well, if you want to be a crisis intervention trained officer, or we call it with CPD, we call it SCIT, you can go through the program. It's a 40-hour course through Cleveland Police, specialized program. And everyone in our unit is required to go through it. And most of the time they have already taken the class to go through it.
How many people are in the unit?
Right now we have 8 officers, 7 officers.
I think we have 6 full teams.
6 full teams, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So each one's paired with a counselor. Okay.
Yeah, a counselor or a social worker.
Okay.
So. And Emma's designated as a counselor. We got to be clear here.
Yeah, we're half counselors, half social workers, but everyone calls us social workers. I'm just used to it.
No, we'll give you your correct title. You deserve it.
Well, just briefly explain what's the difference, just broadly.
It's not huge. It's like a different education path. So we're either licensed social workers or licensed counselors, and the degree is just different. Social work focuses more on like macro level, like bigger picture. kind of thing. So they're looking at it from like a society level and how to best work all the moving parts, where counseling is very like individual focused. And most people that get a counseling degree will go into like one-on-one therapy and do private practice and that kind of thing. But the reality is a lot of our roles are held by both licensures. So we overlap a lot.
Okay.
Okay. So it makes sense to fit in this program that, the CIT program with the police.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Great.
To go back with the training portion for everybody in the unit, do you guys do any other outside training other than with the SCIT?
Yeah, actually, Emma and I, we had an opportunity. We attended the FBI negotiator course downtown, actually. And Emma and I went together, and she was the only civilian in the class, actually. So
Wow.
we were able to get our foot in the door on that. So
That's
which was
awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Sweet.
So FBI agent, I'll check that off. No?
Counselor, check. FBI
Not quite
agent,
agent
check.
yet. No, but we were really lucky to have that opportunity, and it's opened the door for the rest of our unit to start going through it too. So.
Yeah, and that helps in what way? In terms of, tell us a little bit about, more, I guess, you're on a call, someone that's in a crisis. What goes on? What happens? Why are you guys there? Why do we need social workers? Why do we need police officers that are trained in this capacity? For I think the stigma out there for a long time was someone that has mental health issues is they're crazy, they're on drugs, they what I mean, and some of the times those could be maybe what may be causing some of the challenges they have, but it's something in their mental being that needs attention, correct? And this is why we have this. So why is it important to have these type of trainings?
I think it's just adding like another tool to the tool belt. It's a new set of skills that you can rely on that's based on human behavior and de-escalation and active listening, and it's what we call trauma informed. Not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you, and approaching the police or the crisis interaction from that perspective instead of what we would say is being solution focused, of just like, we know what we want the outcome to be and we're going to try to force it. Like, no, we're going to insert ourselves in a situation and work with that person to figure out what's best for them and do it on their terms if at all possible.
Yeah, agreed. Establishing trust and rapport with people is huge with us. It requires a lot of patience and not being solution focused. Like, if you know someone, what the goal is going to be, not to just focus on the goal, focus on everything in between that. And we see a lot of success with that. We see a lot of situations where we have people, typically what you call no people, people that are resistant to possibly going to the hospital, possibly jail maybe, and we try to make that connection with them to get them to comply, obviously without force. We see a lot of, sometimes police officers who may not know, if this person could be required to go to the hospital right now, or is there any other different solutions that we can find in these moments, rather than just taking them to the emergency room. Some different things, that we can offer that, police officers aren't normally used to or comfortable with. And that's a key thing with having Emma along with the mental health component. Because we have different qualifications as police officers, but she does as well. And that's another thing I was able to learn throughout the process. Sometimes, it could be as easy as leaving the person in place. Creating a safety plan for somebody instead of having to remove them from their home or what have you. There's other things in the city, such as crisis stabilization unit. We have the diversion center as well. And we have other, lower level forms of treatment for people rather than just the hospital. And sometimes what we can do based on the person and the circumstances and their history and the nature of the assignment, we can kind of try and figure out some different solutions in the moment.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that some of the officers may not necessarily know all the more detailed options or resources that we have, but as a division, I think all the officers are trained with the basic CIT level. So we've come a long way, probably in the last few years, to address some of these challenges we have in law enforcement. So I think it's significant to highlight that. But we didn't stop there, right? Everybody was trained, and we said we want to take it further. We want to specialize this, and we will be very intentional to fix or address some of the more complicated issues that someone may face.
Yeah, it's absolutely helped the 40-hour CIT class. I don't know exactly how many people have gone through it. Officers have gone through it. I think it's definitely over 100 now. I think it's upwards to almost maybe 120, 125 officers.
That's good.
And we've gotten a lot of good feedback. Officers and social workers and counselors from our unit, we participate in the classes as well. We have what are they exactly called? The actors?
Traumatic Players is the name of the group.
Yeah, traumatic players.
And they're amazing. I did the SCIT training, and those actors are good.
Yeah, they're really good. It's a whole different ball game when you don't have police officers as role players and everything like that, and they make the scenario-based training extremely effective, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback from them. The 40-hour class has offered Cleveland police officers a lot of different avenues and a lot of different ways to deal with people in crisis, train them on trauma and how it affects the brain and what have you as well, which is huge in my opinion.
I agree. How often you guys usually hold those trainings? Is it once a year, or do we do it multiple times throughout the year?
Multiple.
It's 4 times a year.
4 times a year?
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe so. I believe it's 4 times a year, yep.
Okay.
And another important part of that too, I think a lot of people would probably wonder, well, why isn't like every officer going through that training? It's very intentional that it's voluntary, because when dispatch is sending out officers that are specialized in CIT to a call, they want it to be somebody that wants to do this kind of work and is passionate about it, and not someone that was forced to. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And dispatchers can go to the training too, can't they?
Yeah.
And they have, for sure. We usually almost always have at least 1 or 2 dispatchers in the training.
So even before our officers get there, there could potentially be speaking to somebody that had already gone through this training.
Oh, absolutely, and it shows too. I one call in particular comes to mind where we had a dispatcher, and she was talking to a female with a firearm on the phone, and she was pretty sporadic, and it sounded like a pretty dangerous situation. And the dispatch was able to get her to at least drop the firearm and get her to show us her hands and what have you, so that we as police officers and Emma and what have you, we can step in there and have a conversation about why that happened and where we can go from here.
Wow, that's awesome.
That is awesome. That's amazing. So let's make it a little fun. Emma, you mentioned earlier that you've never worked with law enforcement until you got here. What's been the funnest part of being on the job, working with us, CPD?
And I love police officers. You guys are a fun group of people. I don't know if I have like a specific example, but I mean, coming to work every day, it's a great work environment. You guys say it like it is. You guys challenge us, make me better. I'm sorry, I'm not sure like a specific example.
It's a hard question. It's a hard question. Lenardi, what about you? Working with social,
Counselor.
A counselor. Sorry, counselor.
I got you, Emma.
Counselor. Yeah, counselor. Most officers had never worked. I had been on the job going on 17 years. I would never had imagined working, day to day. What's the funnest part of that? What's different?
I'm always learning something from Emma or any other civilian members of our unit and everything like that. It is a lot different from working with a police officer, and obviously something I had to get used to. But I think it's just the learning aspect and educating myself and everything like that. I love it, and there's always something to be learned from especially Emma, because I obviously ride along with her every single day, and that's awesome for me, to be able to just even one little talking point or one little thing to kind of put on my tool belt to better help me de-escalate someone or what have you. So
Yeah. So when you complete the crisis intervention training, I believe you get a pin. Is that correct, or is it specialized CIT or both?
It's specialized CIT pin, yes, sir.
All right. So you get a pin like that. Okay, a patch. We'll take a picture and
Yeah,
show
we'll
it.
put it out there for everybody.
When I took the class years ago when we first started the CIT program and all that stuff. But I think part of the thought was that when you have this pin, you show up on scene. Someone that has mental health issues would recognize that and help with saying, okay, this officer may know or may understand a little bit better what I'm going through in my crisis. How does that work now where obviously the program's out there, it's full blast, you guys are out there working and connecting the community. It's to get to a point would you say that a good amount of people that call because they're in crisis, I already have some type of relationship with you guys, with our officers. Is that a fair statement? Or, because, like the folks that call continuously or that have, some issues, I guess at some point they connect with you and it's, I don't say easier, but just a little bit more. You kind of know
Like with that rapport.
what the rapport is. Is
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I see it with patrolmen all the time. I mean, they're just, and I hear it on the radio as well. They're like, yeah, we're familiar with that person and what have you. And I mean, that's extremely valuable to have those officers on the road and everything like that that are familiar with those families and specific community members and everything like that. Yeah, and we also have become super familiar with some individuals out there as well, and and how to talk to them and how to guide them through the process and everything like that. So
yeah, and I say that because I think there's a perception that we're very transactional when we do law enforcement. We show up, we arrest someone, take them to jail, and that's it. But most, I guess the big part of this program is having that connection, that relationship, and it helps with the results, right? And like you say, officers say, "Hey, I'm familiar with this guy. I dealt with him the last few months. I know, like when I was on patrol, we had a lot of people we dealt with that we became comfortable with. And sometimes it was simple as like, what, when I first came to him the last time, I was a little bit, I went this way. This time I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna say, hey, I got a cup of coffee with, for you, because I know he likes coffee. You know what I mean? And I instantly had a rapport with this person, and now our scenario changed significantly from just having that knowledge of what this person may be more receptive to, if that makes sense. So I think it's important to kind of highlight that as this program has grown, it has helped us in those capacities that the general public may not necessarily understand.
absolutely, and overall, I mean, the program helps awareness, obviously, for mental health, but also trauma and what have you. I think a lot of people don't realize that, in urban environments and what have you, that that mental health is everywhere, and it affects a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And as Cleveland police officers are even more educated over the years, I think that helps them resolve these situations in the safest manner possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
You kind of stated earlier that with the training, it eliminates force that's used with someone that might be experiencing a crisis. What does that look like within the city with us as a department, like compared to others? Has it increased? Has it decreased? Like, where are we at percentage-wise?
So year to year, it's been consistently, in terms of use of force on CIT calls, less than half of 1%.
That's huge.
Of our crisis calls, yeah.
So our training in de-escalation is clearly pretty good.
Effective.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And-
Not to
and
brag.
Last year, how many CIT calls did the city of Cleveland handle?
2024, there were 5,542.
Wow.
So
5,000, how much?
5,542.
Individual crisis calls. Someone calling and say, hey, I'm having a crisis, or someone calling for them.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and only 23 of those involved any level of use of force.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It's 1/2 of 1%.
And, I that 5,000, that's a big number too, right? So, nationwide, probably worldwide, we don't necessarily, or we haven't necessarily addressed mental health issues in certain capacities, specifically not in law enforcement. It's always been just sort of like I mentioned earlier, like we show up, go to jail. We show up, go to jail. You know what I mean? we never had that middle ground that we have. So here in a city where there's 350,000 people, 5,000, that's a lot of incidents that we responded with very little use of force that was needed. And so it's safe to say that these other incidents were resolved in some capacity, even if it means we come back to them, but we helped at least 5,500 people that were in a crisis. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah, absolutely. And it's a complex issue. We have to kind of be careful how we measure success in our program, because it's not like we're having one encounter and
correct?
and totally fixing the problem.
Right.
But yeah, anytime that we can resolve a situation as peacefully as possible and get them to the next day, it might be something we have to continue to tackle. A lot of our clients live in crisis, quite frankly. And that's something our unit gets to do as well, is not just responding to that 911 call, but also following up after the fact and trying to pull all the pieces together.
How often do you guys follow up after? Like, is it just a one-time thing, or you guys keep going until it's resolved?
We don't try and have like a case management load per se,
Okay.
but we try and, in some circumstances, try to follow up with folks to see, how it went possibly after the hospital, or, maybe we left them in place at their house a couple days ago, and then maybe we might give them a phone call or visit them at their house or what have you. Maybe call a family member and maybe get connected with that support system of theirs to see, if what happened was successful, and if it wasn't, how can we help them moving forward?
Does family ever reach out after you guys have kind of helped and kind of give a little bit more insight? You guys are both shaking your head.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
How important is that? How is it important for family to reach out and be connected with their loved ones that are in crisis? Oftentimes, it seems like when folks are in that situation, they're just kind of left alone and no one's really there to support. So how's it important to have family to help them?
It's huge. I mean, it's with everybody is the fear of the unknown, and sometimes, a lot of times, people aren't familiar with the system and what the process is and everything like that, and we're able to kind of explain it to them, and then also after the fact as well, kind of guide them through what the next best steps might look like.
Yeah, and I think it's huge for families to have a consistent person to reach out to as well. Once we're able to build that relationship, it's not them calling 911 or 988 and not starting from square one, but trying to explain their situation to somebody new. Like we already know what a person responded well to or what they didn't respond well to, and can kind of be a point person for ongoing crisis, and an easy point of contact, I guess, for that family member to be like, hey, I'm getting worried, and what can we do?
Yeah. What is 988?
So 988 is the mental health crisis line. Right now in Cuyahoga County, it directs to mobile crisis, but it's an alternative to 911 for mental health crises that doesn't necessarily involve an element of violence or immediate threat, but it connects to non-law enforcement professionals, so people like myself that don't work with police, and can respond to more than non-acute situations.
Cool.
It's also it's something for people to call and just someone to talk to as well, so, which is a good thing to have for people.
So there's tons of resources. Is there any resources that you would like the community or anybody that's listening to kind of know that they can go to and reach out to kind of right now that you could share? Obviously, we just gave the 988, so if anybody is experiencing anything, please make sure you do call if you don't want to speak to the police directly and there isn't a threat.
Yeah, I think two that I always recommend as good starting points are 988 and also 211, which is first call for help. And both 988 and 211 are great kind of resource banks for mental health services. With 988 or 211, you can get information on food banks or shelters or providers in your area. I mean, they kind of cover all of the community resources. So even if you're not sure exactly what you're looking for and just want to be pointed in the right direction, those are two that I mention a lot.
Yeah, it's situation dependent. It could be like a woman with a single mom with a couple kids, or it could be just someone who needs food or what have you. That's a good resource to have for sure.
And it takes away from I'll say the burden, but some of the load from the 911 system that oftentimes, folks, tend to call. So it's kind of separates that a little bit more,
Yeah.
and it's more focused on the actual need at that point. So great.
Sweet. Well, thank you guys. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? You gave us a ton of info. You told us how amazing you guys are.
I think that should be it for now.
Yeah,
Maybe
great.
we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. I
definitely
think
can.
we definitely like to revisit this, especially as the program continues to grow. My understanding is you guys are staffed now. Well, there's a specialized crisis intervention officer, 24 hours throughout the city. Is that accurate? I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, we have officers
patrol.
on patrol that are trained to respond 24 hours. So that's a huge improvement in terms of where we are. We head with this as well. Social workers and counselors. You guys are what's the availability? Or is it 24 hours right now, or is it peak hours or?
Not quite yet, but yeah, peak hours. So right now our co-responder teams are around from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m.
Yes.
Okay.
7 days a week.
That's huge. Yeah, that's significant. For sure. Right.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. So thank you guys. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate all your knowledge.
Thanks for giving us an opportunity to talk about it.
Of
Yeah,
course.
thanks for having us.
Of course. So you guys have been riding shotgun with Ride Along Radio. Thank you for the company, and we will see you on the next call.
I was wondering if you could remember that.
I know.